And turning now to the gun debate in Congress, I want to bring in Siobhan Hughes. She's a congressional reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Siobhan, really nice to have you. So there were rave reviews about this bipartisan sort of agreement that had come out of that small group of senators. Texas Senator John Cornyn, the lead Republican on this, spoke on the Senate floor about where negotiations stand. I want to play a little bit of what he had to say.
We still have a lot of work ahead of us. I think in many ways this is a beginning, not the middle or the end of our work, because now we need to put these principles into legislative text, and then we need to get it on the Senate floor, get it passed in the House, and then get it to President Biden's desk.
Right. So, the headlines were sort of screaming bipartisan agreement, but in reality, it was sort of an agreement on a framework, no legal language. So there are many, many steps to go. So talking about that, from where we are now when it comes to this agreement, turning it into a bill that could eventually end up on the president's desk, what could happen along that journey?
Well, you're right. This is going to be a very delicate phase of the negotiations. There are a couple of substantive flashpoints that we know are going to have to be worked through. Number one, on the issue of red flag laws, this is where you can get a court order to temporarily remove weapons from a person deemed to be at risk to him, herself, or to others. Even though there would not be a national red flag law, money would simply go to states that implement their own red flag laws. That is a bridge too far, potentially, for some Republicans. And so there's an issue about whether something like that could sink the whole thing. You also have the question of funding in terms of money for mental health and in terms of money for states. The question is, how is that going to be implemented? Will money, for example, come out of an existing Justice Department fund? Will you need to add in new money? Also, there are 19 states that already have red flag laws. They could be grandfathered into that funding, but the way some of those red flag laws are written, they wouldn't qualify. Looking on further down the line, once this package gets to the House, it's going to have to win the support of the substantial number of progressives in that caucus. So there's a question about what is the language on school safety going to look like? Is there going to be money, for example, to arm people in schools? Just what you were talking about happened in Ohio State. That could be a turnoff for progressives. So would you have a deal in the Senate and then lose the vote there? And these are just some of the details that have to be worked through. All of this, of course, coming to a head today, Tuesday, at closed door lunches, where Republicans are going to get together behind closed doors. And that's where they're really going to reveal where some of their sentiments are.
So, Siobhan, talk to me about the role that the Senate Minority Leader, that's Mitch McConnell, is playing in these negotiations. I mean, is he and the Republican whip, John Thune, are they ready once this deal is in place to whip those votes, or are they sort of taking a hands-off approach to see where the political winds blow?
So this is definitely not a hands-off approach on the part of Mitch McConnell. And the way you know that is when these negotiations started, Chris Murphy, the Democratic senator from Connecticut, who's really the lead on this, was not negotiating with John Cornyn. It was somebody else. And Mitch McConnell stepped in and said, no, I am going to make John Cornyn the lead. And by some measures, that, in a sense, prevented this bill from going even further than what this bipartisan deal was going to be. Also, yesterday, Mitch McConnell stopping just short of giving a full-throated endorsement of this package. And his support is going to be crucial because John Cornyn has said what he really wants is not 60 votes, the bare minimum to clear the Senate, but substantially more than that. So McConnell's playing a crucial behind-the-scenes role in shaping this, in guiding this. Of course, with McConnell, there's always a political aspect. He's mindful of how some of these issues could play in the November midterms when he feels he has a good chance of winning control of the Senate for those Republicans. And so it's, in a sense, to Republicans' advantage to do something that can be substantive, but maybe not go so far as to alienate the base.
Well, as you know, when it comes to gun legislation, timing is almost everything. It's significant. Right now, there is sort of widespread outrage because this country has witnessed back-to-back mass shootings. But also, the summer recess is looming for the Senate. What are you hearing about potential deadlines to get the legislation over the line?
So what John Cornyn himself said is that he wants this deal to be done by the end of the week in terms of final details, legislative language, and then a vote on the Senate floor the following week. Of course, the Senate is about to go into a recess. And on top of that, we are pivoting into a period in the nation's political life when the most important thing is going to be the midterm elections and not what happens on the Hill anymore. Looking even beyond that, this window is very narrow because 10 Republicans have signed on to this bipartisan package. 10 Republicans and 50 Democrats is exactly 60 votes. Why is that a rub for further down the line? Well, of those 10 Republicans, many are going to be retiring. They will not be around next year. People like Pat Toomey, Roy Blunt, Rob Portman. And so you cannot count on Republican votes in the future for this, which would be the most significant gun legislation in decades.
All right, Siobhan Hughes, excellent reporting. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always good to be here.